Well, when I was in graduate school up in Superior, Wisconsin, I had a very good friend. His name was Ray Replogo. And he and his brother Rex, they're identical twins, had the same front tooth chipped. They worked at a boys' camp in Ely on a really nice lake, but very athletic and really enjoyed canoeing. Well, one year we decided that we would do a canoe trip up by Sioux Lookout, Ontario. And there was Rex and Ray, myself, and two other fellows. So there were 6 fellows and 3 canoes. We hopped the transcontinental railroad train out of Sioux Lookout and put all our gear in a boxcar. We ended up taking the train about 50 miles back into the wilderness where the train stopped. We took all of our gear out and we got on a portage and went into the Boundary Waters. The first day, a huge thunderstorm developed and all 3 of us were separated and essentially somewhat lost. It took us quite a few hours before we reunited. Of course, all the rain gear was in one canoe, which wasn't the canoe I was in, and we ended up going onto an island and then seeking shelter, and had to vote whether or not we wanted to continue on this venture or go back up on the railroad track and catch the next train back to Sioux Lookout. Well, we decided to continue, and that first night we were gathering wood and getting ready, for the evening, setting up camp. And Ray went out to find some firewood. Another person went down to get some water. We all had chores to do. Well, the fellow that went down to get the water slipped on a rock and fell into the lake with his poncho on. So he was struggling and was essentially going down for the 3rd time. And so luckily we found a branch long enough for him to reach it, and we kind of pulled him out. Well, we were going to save our brandy, for other days, but he was in such shock that we gave him a shot of brandy. And then we were looking for Ray. Ray wasn't coming in anywhere, and we were afraid that he might have gotten lost, which he did. He was out there gathering wood and lost sight of the camp, and so in order for him to find his way back, he climbed a pine tree high enough to get a bead on the lake, and then he would walk a distance, climb another pine tree, get a bead on the lake, and then come down. Well, that's what he did to get back to camp, and he was scared. So we ended up sharing a little bit more brandy. I think by the end of the night, that bottle of brandy was gone. So that's how our trip started the first day. And it took us 10 days to get from that first portage to Sioux Lookout, going through many portages, having fun. Sometimes we would find a rapids where the portage was, and we would run down the rapids. We would take the canoe, would walk it back up to the top of the rapids, and run down the rapids again. And fishing, we'd go fishing and catch fish, and we'd eat fish, and so overall it was really fun. It was great. And but the problem we had initially when we got back to Sioux Lookout, we had to wait a while for Ray to get his car back, because the car that we took up there was it was a Chevy station wagon. I think it was about maybe a 72, an older station wagon. We had the canoes on top of. On the way up there, it was about midnight. We were just outside of Sioux Lookout, and all of a sudden, it seemed like the car jumped right off the road. It was kawoom! And I think everybody was sleeping, maybe even the driver. And we woke up and said, "What happened? What happened?" The driver says, "I think I hit a bear." And so we stopped and we got out and we looked around, and there's blueberries all over the hood of the car, and the front end was smashed. And so we started looking around for the bear, which wasn't a very smart thing to do because he was probably really angry by then. Well, we did finally find it. It was in the ditch and it was dead. And So we continued on into Sioux Lookout and reported it to the OPP, the Ontario Police Patrol, and they treated us like criminals. I mean, it was an accident. You know, the bear walked out in front of the car, we hit it and killed it, and so the OPP wanted us to drive them all the way back to the scene of the accident so that they could photograph it and retrieve the bear, I guess, and come back into town. That was the night before we were leaving on our canoe trip, but it took them the 10 days that we were gone to repair the car so that we could drive back down into the States. But that was pretty exciting too. Bear stories.